Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Automating Your Customer Journey. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I am a program assistant at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. And so, as you will see in the chat in a moment, the Nasdaq Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. We always love to connect. And second, we are going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will try our best to get to all of them. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, BPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, we always like to launch a couple polls just to step back and see how the room is doing. All right, so this first one is going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? We'll give this just a few moments for everyone to submit a response. Thank you, thank you. Awesome. We got folks from New Mexico, Alabama, New Jersey, Virginia, Connecticut, California, Cape Town, Netherlands, Nigeria, Luxembourg. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Awesome. We're going to share these results. Looks like optimism is in the lead, but we do have feelings of surviving and anxiety. Hopefully some of our conversation will help address some of those feelings today. So we're going to close this poll and launch the second poll, which is going to ask, what is keeping you up at night? Finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? We'll just give this one another couple moments for everyone to submit a response. Awesome. Texas, Delaware, New Orleans, Montana, Maryland, Michigan, North Carolina. Welcome, welcome. Chicago. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. So great to have you all here. All right, we're going to end this poll, share these results. Looks like sales is in the lead, fitting for our conversation today, but we do have needs all across the board. So thank you. We will take this into account as we develop future programming. And without any further delay, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to our special guest, Jamie Gilliland, President and founder of Keep It Simple Strategies. Jamie, it is such a pleasure to have you here, and I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Michelle and Anna as well. This has been an honor for me to be a part of Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, and I'm really excited that A, we have people from all over the world, and B, we fit right in with what everybody's looking at and nervous about. So one thing, as I share my screen, I wanted to share, I am just getting over a nasty cold. There we go. Our screen should be shared. Michelle, can you see?
Looks all good.
Excellent. So I'm just getting over a nasty cold. So if my voice goes in and out, I apologize, but I'm here and excited and can't wait to see what we're doing. So first question I have, I see we've got people from all over the world. I'd love to get an idea what industries you're in. Are you coaches? Are you in the service industry? Are you in the sales industry. What is your business? So we got healthcare, financial services, sales, apparel, nonprofit, good, service, coach. Excellent. We've got the gamut. Etiquette, I love it. Spa, services, legal, good. So we've got a little bit of everything. So today, what we're going to talk about is, first of all, how we start to identify what we want to automate. Where do we start? Then how do we determine what the customer experience should look like? And finally, how do we automate it? What kinds of systems can we use to put that together? Does that kind of cover what everybody was looking for? Give me a 1 if that is
Yeah,
what
that sounds great.
looking for. All right, we got 1s all over the place. And my voice is just acting really strange. So we'll get through this. Okay, I'm going to shrink the chat and focus on the presentation. So automating the customer journey. Now, the first thing I want you to remember is you're identifying what this path is going to look like. So it's a combination of the experience that we want the customer to have and the process, or the forks in the road, if you will, that we want them to take at different points in the process. So we're going to talk about that. Now, any journey starts with some planning, right? So if you were going on vacation, and this was an actual trip, the first time I gave this presentation, I started in London and then I was doing it in Brussels. So I had to map out how I was going to go and some sightseeing and stuff along the way, right? So determining who our customer is and what we're planning for is the first step. The second is, what am I going to take with me? Making my list of what it is. So we're going to define the system and what that process looks like. And finally, the last step, I had to pack my suitcase, right? So automating and refining is packing the suitcase. So we're going to go through those different pieces. First question people say is, who are you and why should I listen to you? Well, I'm a mom and wife. I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a whole bunch of fish who rely on me. I've been a speaker, author, coach for the last 15 years. I've traveled and spoken around the world. I'm one of the top KEEP certified partners and work with people all over the world. I've been featured in Forbes magazine. I have quite a few notable clients. One of them is a gentleman by the name of Michael E. Gerber. If you've read The E-Myth, Michael is a client of ours. And the top of the screen to Jamie, that's forward that he put in one of his latest books, Beyond the E-Myth, from working with him. So I know my stuff and have worked with startups all the way through people that have sold 4 billion books to people around the world. Now, the question is, why am I so passionate about automation? Well, back in 2007, I was CEO of a startup project, which was a real estate office in Hilton Head, South Carolina. We were voted top 100 new franchise concepts. I apologize for this voice. We had an IPO on Wall Street. Life was pretty good. And then I was diagnosed with a massive brain tumor. Now, we had franchised, thank you, Donna. We had franchised the company, and I literally had written the book on how the franchises were to operate, but I didn't have any systems in place to replace me. When we dealt with this situation, which the doctors told me I only had a 20% chance of surviving. So here I am 20 plus years later, not quite, almost. So I'm definitely a survivor, but the business did not survive because I was out taking care of my health for 6 months. Our 30 staff members didn't know. They were so used to coming into me and saying, should I do this? Can I do this? How do I do this? What do you want with this? That the business failed. I lost everything. Ended up going from a mid 6-figure income to standing in line to collect food stamps to feed my 3 children. So life took a drastic turn. Now, I got really interested in making sure that systems were in place, not only for me, but for all of my market customers, as I started a digital marketing agency at that time, and have become fanatical about it since then. Now, fast forward to 2021, I put my hands where they didn't belong and got bit by a dog, which ended up breaking my hand and turned into a bacterial infection, which I ended up in the hospital for a week, had a whole bunch of medical stuff for 6 months. And then literally 6 months later, somebody pulled out in front of me. I had just bought a brand new, beautiful sports car, 3,000 miles on the car. And they pulled out in front of me, totaled my car, and shattered my right wrist. So I literally had a year where I was working one-handed. In the process, because I had all my systems and automation and things in place, even though I worked very little during that year, I ended up having one of my best years, or the best year I had had to that point. So systems and automation can allow you to build your business around your life, not live your life around your business. So how many of you are excited about that? Trying to build your life, build your business around your life, not the other. All right, I got a yes. Yes and yes. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the first question, and I think this was one of the pre-submitted questions, is where do I start? Now, each and every one of you started your business because you are genius at something. You have a skill set that you either did in the corporate world or somebody identified, and you thought, I can do this, right? I can start my own business, and I can make, instead of billing at $300 an hour for the company and getting 20, I can start charging $200 an hour and make all of it, right? How many had that thought when you started? Good. That's why you're an entrepreneur. Excellent. So many of us do. Unfortunately, what we forget or don't think about when we do this is when we're in the corporate world, there's other ancillary people around us who are doing the jobs that make our job easier. They're finding the clients, they're delivering the person, and we can focus on our one thing. Well, once we become entrepreneurs, we don't have that luxury anymore. All of a sudden, we're wearing all of those hats, right? Or at least in the beginning. So you're dealing with so many different things. Now, the first thing I have all of my clients do is for a 2-week period, I have them, and they hate me when I tell them to do this, but they love me at the end. For 2 weeks, for yourself and everyone on your staff, everyone who works for you, have you stop every 15 minutes, set a timer on your phone, and jot down what you did for the last 15 minutes. Replied to emails, sent this, did this, emptied the trash, right? Because we're all doing all of the jobs in the course of the day. At the end of 2 weeks, we look at what's on that list that you did over and over and over and over. There's repetitive things that you're doing. So those repetitive things are the first things we start to look at automating in the business. Many of them relate to the customer journey. Some of them are just miscellaneous stuff that happens. So client management, banking, firing, hiring, Facebook, account, lead gen, right? All of these different. Now notice we have 86,400 seconds every day. How we use them depends on what we feel at the end of the day. How many times, put a 0 if you many days look at your calendar and say, what the heck did I accomplish today? I was busy all day, but I don't feel like I got anything done. Yeah, there you go. Lots of them. So what we want to do with automation and systems, and sometimes the system is more delegation than automate, but we try and automate as much as we can. We want to automate 70% of what is keeping us busy every day. And when we do, notice the 86,000 seconds. Now we can focus more on the life, getting our life back and having all of the business stuff handled. The other thing that I find with clients, and this doesn't have to do with automation, but it's part of the systems and the process as you build it. How many of you have a clear start and end time? How many of you have set boundaries around your workday? Say yes if you have. Not really. Yep. One of the things that I found when I started my company was it was so easy to slide into, it's 6 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock, let me get the kids fed and get them to bed, and then go back to it, right? And instead of what we thought was going to be this amazing 4-hour work week, we end up with the 4-hour sleep week because we're working constantly when we're not taking care of the family. And sometimes I found I wasn't taking care of the family as much as I really wanted to be because I had the excuse, sorry, mommy has to work. Sorry, I've got a meeting. I've got a deadline, right? So we want to eliminate that kind of thought process, create the systems, and go to work from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Wouldn't that be amazing? Everybody give me a thumbs up if you like that idea. So the first part, there we go. We got some thumbs up. Yes, yes, thumbs up. Good. I love it. All right. So the first part of our journey is figuring out where we begin and where we'll end. Now, most people talk about, and I think one of the questions was, what about marketing and sales systems. In order to create a lead generation process, most people have some sort of sales funnel. They start with a free product, they go to a low price product, a mid-range product, and then a high price product. So this is the kind of 30,000 foot level of where most lead generation automation that we build comes at. Now, I personally dislike the idea of being squeezed, pushed through a funnel. I prefer the value ladder, where people are ascending in the process. So people see your app, they see something on social media, they heard about you from a referral, they start to get excited, they opt in, they make a small purchase, they get some value and they're excited, so they go to the next offer and the next offer and the next offer, and we're moving them up by prompting them, right? We have a process that says, hey, now that you got A, maybe you might be interested in looking at B, whatever that is. And then as we have successful customers, we get testimonials and we get case studies and we start the referral process. So if you noticed on my opening slide, I talked about how to create prospects into friends, friends into customers, and customers into referral partners. Even though I own a digital marketing agency for the last 20 years, until 3 months ago, my husband wrote a novel. And until 3 months ago, I personally have never paid for advertising. All of my sales have come from referrals, from speaking, from people learning about what I did. And I've done very well in my businesses in doing that. So you don't have to spend money to make money if you are building the systems in place to ask for sales, ask for referrals. If you don't ask, it doesn't happen. And sometimes it's uncomfortable for you to say it personally. So we build that into the system. We build that into the automation, and it just happens and makes life much easier. So some of you are saying, but my business is different. How many of you think your business is different? Go ahead and drop a 6. Oh, good. I don't have too many. Now, if I had a nickel for every time somebody told me their business was different, I'd be a very, very wealthy lady, right? So all businesses, regardless of whether you're in healthcare, you're a lawyer, you're a financial services, all of the process is the same. Somebody becomes interested in what you're doing, you talk to them, you convince them that you're the right person to solve their challenges, and then you go to work for them, right? The steps along the way may be a little different, but the whole process from start to finish works the same for everyone. So we're going to look at it as the overview in that way. All right. So we know we need to generate leads and we want to take them through this value ladder or sales funnel so that they become lifelong customers and referring friends. So let's look at how we start to identify this. Now, one of the greatest inventions when it comes to sales and marketing and automation is the Post-it. I do most of my brainstorming sticking Post-its on the wall. So one of the pre-submitted questions we had was, how do we start this? And especially if we're a startup. So there's a couple of ways I do this. First, you having done this for someone else or having not done it before, have a vision of what you want the process to look like, what you need to happen. Now, this was a whiteboarding process I went through with an insurance agent who was a client of ours. So the first thing that happened was somebody requested a quote. Then they got put into the CRM. Then there was fact finding, what kind of questions they needed to ask to be able to answer and provide the quote. Then a quote was submitted, or quote was started to be created, was finalized. Then it was put in proposal. Then tasks were created. Prospect accepts or declines. If they accept, these things happen. If they decline, these things happen. So notice we literally went step by step by step by step what that process should look like and what the forks in the road could be in the process. Once those are on Post-its, I then put it up on the wall and we start to look at it and refine the process. Originally, we might have thought it was A, B, C, but later after looking at it, we might decide it's C, A, B, right? Or whatever the order is. So we may adjust the order in the process. Then we also determine, is there something we're missing? What kind of follow-ups do we want to do? Once they've purchased, what does the upsell look like? What does it look like to move them forward in the process? So now, once we do that, for those of you that are, and that is especially important for startups that haven't got customer yet, but for any business wants to go through this process. Then the next thing I do is, how many of you have an amazing customer that you wish you had 500 of? If they were all like Susie, life would be amazing, right? Everybody have a Susie? Say yes. Yes. We got Susie's, and maybe her name actually is Susie, right? So if I had 100 Susies, I would be on top of the world. So what we want to do is we want to look at the process that Susie came through. Where did Susie find us? Was it certain social media? Was it a referral? Was it the yellow pages? Was it a postcard I sent in through regular snail mail? What was Susie's needs? Why did Susie buy from you? And I would call Susie and talk to her and say, hey, I absolutely love our relationship and I want more like it. Tell me why you chose me over the other people you were thinking about. Then what steps happen if you have employees who handled the process? What are all the things that had to happen and who claimed ownership? And how much time did this process take? So we're looking at this original outlined process and we're tweaking it to fit what Susie's experience was. Does that make sense to everyone? Why do we want to replicate Susie's experience? Because we want more Susies, right? So we want to replicate the process that worked. Now, once you do that, she's our ideal client. Exactly, Donna. And because it brought success. Yes, Allison, exactly. So we want to replicate that over and over. Now, how many of you have a client that when the phone rings, you kind of put your head down and say, oh God, I really don't want to answer that phone call, right? We've all had one of those. Let's call this one George. No offense to any Georges. So if we've got a George that we don't want to replicate, what do you think we want to do? We want to look at the same process. And now you've had to deal. There's nothing more exciting than being able to fire a client when they're not the right client, and being able to identify that they're not the right client from the beginning. So now we do the same process for this unhappy or incorrect or non-ideal client. And we look at, where did the system go off track? Was it expectations? Was it a certain employee that handled something? Was it, what was the process? So we identify where the difference is, and we make sure that we don't have the same thing happen again. Make sense? Exactly. How can we turn George into Susie? So how do we make sure that the piece that was different, that stood out, that made George not be a perfect fit, doesn't happen again? Cool. So what's missing? What can we avoid? What do we want to repeat? So looking at the two, we get a very clear process. Now, once we've gotten who we want to go, who we want to work with, how we want the process to go, what the steps are, we've outlined this whole piece, then we get to the point where we start putting this together into systems. Now, my system of choice is a software called Keep, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. But regardless of what CRM you're using, we want to build the system so that each of the pieces, and there's different ways we can do it, that different things happen at different times. We have timers that set delays. We have actions, whether it's emails or phone calls or text messages or letters that we're sending or polls that we're sending or videos or whatever it might be that we're creating, that we have certain things happen at certain times. Now, there is always a point in the process where we need human interaction. We can't automate completely. It's called Keep, and I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes, Tammy. So there's always going to be places where we need human interaction. There's going to be places where we need to build in a phone call or somebody looking at answers to a survey or a questionnaire or whatever the process, or the sales call, whatever it is. So we can build those into the system as well. And when those tasks are marked as completed, then the next piece of automation kicks off. So there's multiple ways we can do that. And the software that you choose has different ways depending upon what it is. So we'll talk about that in the process. Now, when we automate our customer's journey, we start to find more time in our day, because all the busy work is handled by the system. By the way, I call my Keep my 24/7 assistant, never calls in sick, never has to go to a soccer game, is always there and is always on. So I love it for that. We get more sales and we get more consistent upsells because we've built the process. We get more consistency so that we know X, Y, and Z had to happen before we got them on the phone. So we know exactly where they're at. And we get more work-life balance. Does that sound like something everyone's up for? So setting up these systems can take some time, but once you do it, you get so much more time on the back end. So I think it's completely worth it. Now, Keep gives you the ability to build all of the automation. It gives you the ability to invoice, to sell products. I have clients who are coaches that sell digital products. So they purchase through Keep, the system delivers, and they don't have to do anything. It just happens. We've got funnel templates. There's a calendar app. There's a business phone line. If you're in the US or Canada, you can do all the process. There's different levels. The version that Keep has given me a discount for you guys today. And I think it's good through the 1st of August, is the software is $168 a month, but they're giving you 3 months at 30% off. So it's $111.30. And that allows you to have up to 2,500 people on your list. If you need more than that, I can get you discounts on the additional ones as well. So if you scan this QR code, that'll pull up the offer for you, or you can type the keepnow.com/Jane is the special price. Now, what I'd like to do for you is, if you're interested in starting to work with Keep as your automation solution, I do what I call an automation play date, which is a 4-hour group session where we get you all set up, but it's everybody pulls up their screen and I tell you, click here, do this, no, click that, whatever it might be. So we get you all set up. And normally I charge $4.95 for that, but I'm going to offer that for free for everyone on the call who chooses to start using Keep. And then if you're already using Keep and you need help and support, I'm happy to help with that, or just to answer questions as we go through. So if you want a 15-minute consultation with me, yep, you can go to coachjamieg.com, or you can go to meetwithjamieg.com and book a call. All right, I think I made the time. How'd I do, Michelle?
Awesome, Jamie. That was so great. Thank you so much. And we have some time for live Q&A. So if you are in the audience and you got a question for Jamie, please make sure to drop it in that Q&A box. We'll try to get to as many as possible. So let's jump right in. Can you maybe talk more about some of the factors that can influence whether potential customers move up to the next step of the value ladder? I think sometimes encouraging engagement or conversion, or like those later stages, like even promotion, can be among a particular audience, can be difficult for an entrepreneur to kind of navigate.
Sure. And again, when you look back at Susie and what the process was, that helps you to determine what we want that to be. So how did Susie interact? What was the phrase that you used in the direct message or in the email? What was the comments? Those kinds of things really help as you look at what's successful and what's not. We start to tweak. So if you're not getting success with something, we look at where the other pieces are, we adjust it and change it. So automation is something, some people say set it and forget it. When it's really working, you can set it and forget it. But until it gets to that stage, it's kind of a living, breathing process. Just like if you had a new employee that you were training,
Right.
you've got to tweak along the way to get everything to work the way you want it to.
Yeah. And I think that's just important to understand that while these tools are meant to save us time to a degree, it is kind of a worthy investment of time to kind of set it all up and make it what you need it to be to support your sales process and that customer journey. So that's great to emphasize.
Yeah, absolutely. And we at Keep It Simple Strategies have two different groups of clients. We have the ones who want to learn to do it themselves and they want the coaching and training on how to do it. And we have the ones who say, I don't want to do it, I just want it done. So we have a done for you version that we can help people with as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. I definitely totally know you can be in either one of those boats. So that's great. Awesome. So yeah, you mentioned Keep as a great option for CRM. And I think when selecting, like kind of looking at all these automation tools that are out there, you're going to encounter a lot of options with different features and capabilities. So can you talk a little bit about how you might evaluate automation tools to choose the best one based on your sales needs?
Sure. So the things that are important to me is the ability to set delays and have things happen the right thing at the right time. So first of all, can you create time frames? Second, the other thing, and Keep has what we call smart automation, where I can set a goal. So if my goal is to get them to purchase a product, and I have 5 or 6 emails that are all promoting this particular product, if they purchase on the first email, there's nothing more annoying or more embarrassing than having emails go out afterwards and say, why didn't you buy? Why didn't you buy? Why didn't you buy? Why didn't you buy? And they're like, I did buy. What's wrong with you? So having the ability to pull people out of automation automatically, not having to manually go in and say, oh, they bought, because then you're really not automated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You got to help the system help you.
Exactly. So that's a critical piece. And there aren't many, and I've not only evaluated, I've been recruited by many of the CRMs out there because of the status that I have with Keep. And many of them don't do that. So that's one of the reasons that I love Keep, because I want it to be a consistent, good experience. And if I can't pull them in the right direction or have certain things, if they opened it but not watched it, or come to my webinar or something, and I want to know that they were there, then I have a certain follow-up sequence. If they didn't attend, then I want a different follow-up sequence.
Right.
And again, having the SMART goals helps do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. So kind of just building off of that, we do definitely have some entrepreneurs in the audience who are working on a lean budget. So do you have any recommendations about how entrepreneurs kind of in that circumstance can access automation? Like, are there tools? Like, I know somebody in the chat was kind of asking about MailChimp. Like, do any of those systems have automation features?
The less you pay, the less automation features you have.
Sure.
It becomes more email blast capability, if you will.
Yeah.
So, and I understand the lean budgets. One of the things, though, that I want people to think about, and it's going to sound kind of gruff, and this is a phrase from Michael Gerber himself. If you're planning and building a business, you need to plan to build, you need to build the business the way it needs to be built versus trying to shortcut. The more shortcuts you try and take, the less likely the success will be, if that makes sense. So instead of saying, I can't afford $168 a month, say, if the software allowed me to get one more client per month, would that cover the cost of the software, right? Or how can I, if I add 3 people at my $50 a month program per month, or have the first 3 that I bring in, that covers the cost. So everything over that is profit.
Right.
So instead of just automatically saying, I can't, figure out ways to figure out how you can.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's super helpful, kind of thinking outside of the box. That's awesome. So I guess kind of thinking about, a more built out sales automation setup, kind of that entrepreneurs are striving for. How might they leverage data analytics and machine learning techniques to continue identifying and understanding ideal customer profiles more accurately as their business evolves over time?
Sure. A lot of, for instance, Facebook ads and marketing and things that you're doing in that way, you're able to tailor to certain demographics, certain pieces. And I always, I have clients that say, I ran it for 24 hours and I didn't get any results. I'm like, you didn't let it learn. You got to commit to 2 weeks before you do this.
Yeah.
So you've got to have enough data and enough time to gather the right data. But data is absolutely your friend. As Damon John says, don't get mad, get data, right?
Yeah.
So with the data, you can determine what is working. And that's that living, breathing process of tweaking. But the warning is, don't go in every 24 hours and don't change 15 things at once, because then you don't know what worked.
Right.
So when you look at the data, change one thing, gather more data, change the next thing, and then you'll find what the piece is that makes the difference.
Right. This is all like a long-term investment. Definitely requires some patience, but a worthy investment of time. So
Absolutely.
I love it. So kind of building off of that, how might entrepreneurs kind of implement continuous learning around the customer journey to better inform the development of their product or service? Like,
Go ahead.
yeah, just like kind of using those insights that they're gathering from the customer journey,
Yeah, the biggest thing is actually talking to people.
Mm.
So, and I have, if you noticed my picture of my family, my kids are all grown now. And it drives me nuts sometimes when I say, they'll complain about something and I say, have you called them? Well, no, they didn't give me permission to call. They have a phone, right? Call. So talking to people about why they chose you or talking to people, and it's humbling why they didn't choose you.
Yeah.
Is an important aspect. That's the best data you can get.
Absolutely.
And then when you're determining beforehand what the problems, challenges, needs are that the customers have, I always do my calls by Zoom, and I use Otter or Fathom or one of the transcription services. And at the end of it, I have a VA. I did it for years myself, but I have her go through and highlight key words that I'm hearing. So if I'm hearing the same challenge, the same key words from multiple people, that tells me that's something that I want to focus on.
Right.
So that either becomes part of the language for the opt-in for lead magnet, it becomes part of the language in the follow-up emails. When you find out what the objections are and why people chose not or had objections that you had to overcome, those become something that we hit head on in the emails and the follow-ups before the closing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super helpful. So we have a question from the audience kind of about, through using these systems of these automation systems, and, kind of wanting to avoid that like email blast, feeling for customers, like what tips do you have for entrepreneurs on kind of like building relationships with authenticity and kind of just like, the true values of the company coming through despite these like automation tools? Because I think sometimes it can get confusing.
Absolutely. And as you're building these tools, there are certain pieces that help with that as well. For instance, we can say, I hope you're having a great blank, and have the system fill in Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, whatever the day is, which makes it feel more personal. The biggest tip, and my husband is a copywriter. He does ghostwriting. He writes for Michael Gerber. He writes for quite a few people. And one of the biggest changes that we've implemented in our clients' work is we actually, when we're writing the emails, when we're writing the texts, when we're creating the landing pages, we are talking to Susie, right? If Susie's our ideal client, we're talking directly to Susie. So what would the conversation be like if you were sitting on the call and saying, hey, Michelle, so I think XYZ, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? And that's the same conversation that I want to have in print versus so many times I see people send a message and says something like, hey, y'all, we wanted to make sure that we were giving you everything you wanted and need. Well, I don't feel special anymore because I'm part of everyone. If you're focusing on Susie and focusing on me, it makes a big difference because I feel like it was written to me. The other tip when you're building automated messages is shorter. Shorter is better. Long form, people know if I'm just calling Michelle, I'm going to say what I'm saying in 2 paragraphs, not in 20. So short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah, love it. It actually reminds me, I follow a newsletter that I always confuse for a personal email for me because it just is so well written. And she always includes a picture of her dog at the end, which just feels very personal. She's like, here's a picture of my dog, super fun, super cute. This is what's going on in life. And it feels like kind of like a personal letter. So it's fun to get those kinds of those emails for sure.
The more personal you make it, the more conversion and upsells you'll get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I think we have time for one more question. And I think just kind of thinking about, okay, we have like sales automation tools. How best can entrepreneurs kind of think about integrating those with, potential like marketing automation tools to kind of like create like a cohesive automation journey for the customer, if that makes sense?
Well, and ideally, the system you choose includes all of it. So
Sure.
Keep does, you can build the funnels, you build the order forms, you build the follow-up. It's all in one place.
Mhm,
And, it reminds me years ago, before Keep had been recruiting me. And at
mhm,
the time it was called Infusionsoft.
mhm,
And Infusionsoft, this was, see, 2014 is when I started working with the software. And at that time, it was $399 a month for the software. And I was just like so many, I was like, I'm a small business. I can't afford $400. I'm not going to do it. So I had MailChimp for $25 a month and
mhm.
something else for $40 and something else for $50. And I had all these different little systems that I had band-aided and bubble gummed together
Yeah.
and was doing multiple input. And we didn't have things like Zap, which makes it a little better, but I had bad data. I had things that broke.
Right.
And when I sat down and looked at, I was spending $25 to $50 a month per software, but there were so many of them, I was spending over $600 a month for something that when I buckled down and said, you know what, if I spend $399, it's all together, it's all in this same place. So I'm actually saving
Right.
money by buying the more expensive software.
Right. Yeah, no, it's interesting kind of like having to think about your financials a little bit outside of the box. Awesome. Jamie, this has been so great. If you had one key takeaway that you wanted to leave with the audience, what would that be?
Spend 15 minutes with me.
Awesome. Well, Jamie, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you for your insights. And on behalf of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, we are just so grateful you joined us.
Thank you. I've enjoyed, and hopefully we got some good ideas sparked with everyone, and happy to spend 15 minutes to help you outline and look at whatever systems. I've looked at all of them. So whatever systems you're looking at, helping you determine if it can meet your needs. And if Keep does, I'd love to join you for the 4-hour class.
Awesome. Jamie, thank you so much. And to our audience, we would love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view using the link that's going to be posted in the chat. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.